All right, welcome to the 12 Months of Leadership. My name is Celine Krizan. I'm a professor of entrepreneurship here at UB School of Management. And today we have a very, very special webinar session for all of you on this beautiful summer day. We have two incredible alumni speakers joining us, Richard Ferranti, Chief Executive Officer at Rich Products. And today's conversation will be facilitated by another incredible alumni, Carolyn Tomlinson. She's the Director of Breakthrough Innovation at Rich Products. And today's session we're going to be digging into the topic of leading through volatility and transforming uncertainty into opportunity, which is a topic that you're going to hear about. And it's something that Richard is an incredible expert in. I'll be doing their bios in just a moment, but just some quick housekeeping before we get started. Today's session is really supported by the Center for Leadership and Organizational Effectiveness. You'll see our team in the chat. If you have any issues, questions, or tech problems, Maddie will jump in and be there to help you. Also, if you have any questions that you want to ask Richard throughout today's session, you'll see that there is a Q&A box in your Zoom screen. You can drop in any questions that you would like to ask Richard right in that Q&A session, and we'll save time at the end for you to be able to ask them. And now, without further ado, I'm so excited to introduce Richard Ferranti, Chief Executive Officer of Rich Products. A Rich's associate since 1986, Richard has held leadership positions across the company's global operations, from early sales and marketing roles to leading both the international and North American business groups. His steady rise through the organization culminated in his appointment as CEO in 2020, which he's going to talk about, and leading through that transformation of uncertainty, making him just the fourth person in the company history to hold that title. He's a proud UB alumnus, where he earned his MBA, and he continues to contribute as a guest lecturer and member of the Dean's Advisory Council. And today's session is going to be facilitated by none other than Carolyn Tomlinson. Carolyn is a very incredible friend to Chloe. Her current title at Riches is Director of Breakthrough Innovation, and she is our current chair of the Joint Council between the Center for Leadership and Organizational Effectiveness and Global Programs at the University at Buffalo School of Management. So without further ado, Carolyn, I want to hand it off to you, and let's get this conversation rolling.
Great. Thanks, Celine. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Maddie and Celine, for helping organize this webinar. And thanks to those who are joining us from around the globe. Richard, thank you for being here. Before we kick things off, I wanted to hand it over to you to offer a little more context on who we are here at Riches.
Carolyn, thank you very, very much. I really am looking forward to the conversation we're going to have today. And before I got started, we just wanted to sort of express our thanks for the partnership that we at Rich Products have with UB. It goes back a long, long way. Our founder, Bob Ritz Sr., was an alum of the school, and the appreciation for the work that we're able to do together with Satish, with Dean Iyer and the School of Business. Dorothy, you've just been tremendous as sort of our key liaison. Carolyn, the work and the time and the effort that you spend is really something. We feel that partnership with the university is really a key part of how we think about the world, how we get a perspective on what younger folks are thinking, how we've got talent that we can draw upon, projects that we can work with, and it really is an essential part of sort of the lifeblood of this company. You can go online, I'm sure many of you have, and look at Rich Products, but we're a $6 billion global organization, happy to be in our 80th year. It's only about 4% of companies, family-held companies, who make it this far along into the fourth generation. So I'm really proud of that. That's a reflection of the values and the culture of the leadership of the Rich family, who really make it a point to spend the right amount of time, effort, and energy in investing back into the business, which shows a lot of faith in the organization, the Western New York community, and really the work that we have around the globe. We're a food business, 45 manufacturing facilities around the globe, US, Canada, Mexico, throughout Asia, and in Europe. We service 4 or 5 major channels of food service businesses, traditional retail branded businesses, an ingredient side of the business, a smaller e-com business, and then the in-store bakery. So you walk in a bakery or a bakery cafe, that kind of business. So it's a pretty global footprint, 13,500 people or so around the globe. And really, we're all about growth. We're all about developing the people that we have in the organization. And we're all about being laser-like focused in understanding the customers we have and where those consumers and customers are heading. So that's just a little bit the overview of the organization and the sort of scale and scope. And we have a vision to get to 10 billion by 2030. So pretty aggressive, but something that's plausible, possible, and certainly inspires our folks around the globe.
Thank you, Richard. So let's dive into some questions and talk about leadership in crisis. So I think everybody's aware we're living in a time of great volatility, economic uncertainty, but 5 years ago brought an unprecedented crisis. It also coincided with your taking the helm as CEO at Rich Products. So what were the strategies that you employed to lead the company through crisis and complexity, and how did that shape how you lead through today's challenges?
Thanks, Carolyn. Great question. I think one of the things when you step into a CEO role, no matter what the circumstances, is you want to have a clear sense of purpose, of why you're in that role, what you're trying to accomplish, how you can make a difference. So I had a pretty good framework pre-crisis before I stepped in the role about why it was important to me. It was about, making a difference in the people in the communities where we work, the sense of caring about folks, the sense about wanting to create value over the long haul for our shareholders. Ultimately, that's growth for the organization and the people that we have. It was about building a great leadership team that could serve well beyond the time that I was there. And then the fourth area was innovation. Everyone talks about innovation, but to do it well, to do it consistently, no matter what the circumstances, is extraordinarily difficult. And so it was building the sort of innovation capabilities that could take us, to year 100 and beyond. And so stepping into the role, when that crisis hit in March, we really were in pretty unprecedented times at that point. People, if you recall, weren't sure what was happening. People were really uncomfortable, scared in many cases. It was a pandemic that, was taking place literally everywhere around the globe. Some of us remember those early pictures from Italy and from Spain, and some of the crisis that was happening and that sense of uncertainty starting with China and beyond. So for me, one of the first decisions we had to make was whether to keep the offices open or not. And we made that decision because the safety of the folks that work for us, the safety of us providing products that are going to be in a good place for the people we serve was paramount. And we felt that, that seemed at the time a pretty straightforward decision, but we weren't sure how we were going to operate. We had all this technology. We were lucky that we had a really good technology platform around the globe, but that was a big decision. That was number one. Number two was to step back and say, all right, do we have the right leadership team in place, and how are we going to govern this enterprise around the world in a time of crisis? There's no playbook, there's no McKinsey or BCG or anybody to go to help you with all of this. So what does that mean? So you had to count on the people that you had. So putting together a really strong core leadership team with clear accountabilities and responsibilities, from everything to running the business, to dealing with the crisis, to keeping the plants open, to ensuring people were safe, which was paramount to us, especially early on, was key. So making that appointment, setting up some sort of governance mechanism of how we were going to do things, and just putting in place sort of that whole construct. And what we saw pretty quickly is we really needed to sort of step back and ensure that we gave people a sense of certainty, a sense of where we wanted to help people in this time of tremendous uncertainty, give them a sense of what we were trying to accomplish. So we basically set up a theme around sort of resetting the business, reemerging post-pandemic, and then sort of reinventing. And we started pretty early, 90 days, 120 days post March 1, to start to introduce that, so people got a sense of not getting caught up in just the here and the now, and that they felt that there was a real sense of pride, and there was a sense of that, we were going to come out of this in a good, healthy place. And I would say the other big key here was the communication side. We really experimented a lot with a multitude of different communication vehicles, be it myself on a weekly basis, be it others on our leadership team, be it ownership getting involved and providing the right kind of support. And people were doing a lot of crazy things at that point in time. I felt panicking, in all honesty. People were cutting lots of jobs, and people were really worried. So giving a sense to the organization that, hey, it's going to be difficult, but we're going to make our way through it. Hey, we're here for you. We're not going to make any silly short-term decisions that are going to impact the long-term health of this company, our ability to serve our customers, our ability for you to grow, assuring them what we knew, what we didn't know, what we were trying to do and why, and eliciting feedback in a pretty continual loop. I think those were some of the keys, and I think the values that the company had, the culture that the organization had around the globe really was beneficial to sort of help us get our way sort of through that crisis. And again, that communication, that clarity, that sense of purpose and vision was really key, especially in that first year or so, I would say.
Absolutely. And I'll say, as an associate at home with two small children during that time, the proof was in the pudding. These aren't just words. Associates felt very supported, very looked after, strongly communicated to. So thank you for that. Let's talk a little bit about how the pandemic and global uncertainty spark reinvention at Rich Products.
So, you go through a situation like that, and I talked about this theme of reset, reemerge, and reimagine. So people want to feel that there's opportunity, that there's hope, that there's a way that they can contribute in a meaningful way. They want to feel appreciated for the work that they're doing, respected for the beliefs that they have. And all of these things are universal. This crosses cultures around the globe. During the crisis in Vietnam, as an example, so we have a pretty large manufacturing facility in Vietnam, and different countries handled the lockdowns and the shutdowns in vastly different ways, from different parts of the US to Canada to China to other parts of Asia and beyond. And so in Vietnam, our associates in the plant, and at the time there was about 350 or 400 people in that plant, they got stuck in that facility. They could not leave the four walls of the facility for almost 100 days. So our ability to support them, to ensure that they felt that they were going to be in a good place, they were going to get food, that they were going to be able to sort of communicate with their families, that we had the right, I would say, not only empathy, but during that time, it was this combination of empathy and, from a leadership perspective, compassion, which was really, really critical. And so coming out of that crisis and coming out of the pandemic, those folks in Vietnam, I mean, their level of commitment to this organization, the amount of innovation that they drive with new products and new concepts, I mean, that's one of the fastest growing markets that we have around the globe. In many respects, the pandemic sort of showed people what's possible, and by sticking together and sort of having a sense of working together to sort of build new products, new capabilities, I mean, that was an example. Here in the U.S., during the past, you had a huge shift in 20 into 21, where, if you recall, you couldn't go out. So the entire food service business, restaurants, anything like that, plummeted. 30, 35, 40% of tonnage went down literally in 60 days. Now we've got a very balanced portfolio, as I alluded together. We have a nice retail business, a good in-store bakery and bakery business, et cetera. So for us, that combination of channels and countries helped us sort of work our way through 20 and 21. But our retail business kind of exploded because people couldn't go to restaurants or out to eat, or they weren't traveling. They were staying home, and they were going to, Wegmans and the Tops locally, or Kroger's or Walmart or Asda's, the Tesco's around the globe. So our ice cream cake business here in the US, as an example, we sell Carvel ice cream cakes, exploded. Up 30, 35% in a category that grows 2 to 3% year over year. So it was unprecedented. So our ability to work with those customers in the facilities, in the plants, because remember, lots of people could stay home. Lots of people could work remotely, but people at the plants had to go to the plant every single day. And we had to provide them with all kinds of different tools and barriers and slow lines down and do a lot of different things to sort of help them. But they had to go to work. They went to work every single day. So to manage that, to look at sort of a category like ice cream cakes, like in 2 years that exploded by 30%. Those were small examples. The Vietnam example, where you had a crisis, but it led to a catalyst for new space, new growth, and a sense of resilience that people could have.
Amazing. Thank you. So here at Rich's, we're a food organization. People might not think that we talk much about technology, but we do. How does embedding technology at the core of growth and innovation help Rich Products navigate through periods of volatility?
About 6 or 7 years ago, we took a little bit of a step back and saw that building a digitally, at the time, enabled organization was going to be critical. The pandemic did a couple of different things. One of which was it really sped up adoption and adaption of technology platforms in a way that was pretty unexpected. So we had a good platform in place, but what that pandemic showed and what it caused is us to really have to sort of accelerate how we do business. And today, I mean, if you don't have a digital footprint, if you can't deliver value to your customers digitally, so an example, we have a digital shelf in some countries around the globe. So that means a consumer, whether they want to go online, whether they want to physically be in the store, whether they want to go on the website of the customers, we want them to be able to see the products and the solutions that we can show the same exact way, and to be able to work with the customer to do things like promotions and sort of have the kind of analytical insights that we need. Easier said than done, but it's a requirement. Part of what we're able to do is to do that. To be digitally connected means that basically, for all intents and purposes, literally every aspect of the work that we do, the way we create value for customers, the way we drive innovation, the way we drive productivity and safety at the facilities, the way that we collaborate together is based upon a digital footprint. Lots of discussion recently on AI, basically since October or so of 23, and it's a big component of our approach. And I would say one of the things is what you're building is a capability. It's not just a technology platform. This is a capability that you're building to get the organization to think about how do you work with AI to help solve problems, to help deal with issues and challenges in a much, much, much faster way than you could before. So we have a project that we have ongoing that in the past would have taken 6-9 months or so, taking a look at our competitive framework, how we do kind of the analytical work related to the competitors and the market set and the consumers and so on and so forth. We'll do that in 2 weeks, leveraging our folks in AI as an example. So I think you must transform the organization to be able to deliver value and run the company in a way that is totally digitally enabled. And your mindset has to be that, working with the right outside partners, helping your own people develop and grow, et cetera. So, I mean, it's a table stake, basically.
Foundational, absolutely. Thank you. Customer obsession is a term near and dear to our hearts here at Rich Products. We say that a lot, and we live that a lot. Can you share examples of how staying relentlessly focused on customer needs helps the company thrive in a shifting world?
I would say broadly that part of the DNA of this company, started by our founder, continued with Bob and Mindy and all of us today, is that at the end of the day, our primary purpose here is to create value for our customers. That's why we exist, is are we able to sort of solve problems they have, deliver solutions, provide them with products, services, and technologies that are going to make their lives easier, that are going to save them money, they're going to create value from them on a revenue perspective or whatever they need. That is at the epicenter of every strategic piece of work that we do. It's at the epicenter of what people have to be thinking about each and every day, and it's what ultimately that we're all about. You think about a market like China, where we've been in China since mid-90s or so, 4 manufacturing facilities over there, and there are very, very few companies in the food business left in China that have been able to thrive and grow. And one of the reasons that we've been successful and are one of the few is we have a great team. We provide that team with the right amount of support as needed, but give them enormous latitude to do what's required to be successful. Innovation cycle time in China are days and weeks, not months and years like in other parts of the world. The ability to respond to a very, very young, vibrant set of consumers who have high expectations around constant innovation is existential to be successful, and providing and dealing with a place like China based upon that competitive set, those customer requirements, not what's good for the US, not what's good for the UK or in South Africa or in Mexico, is really key. So I think one of the keys for success from a customer obsession perspective is to ensure that what we're doing is both answering and addressing the needs of those customers, those channels, those segments in a given country, given those requirements and that competitive set, and to take advantage of the scale and size that we have to provide the right kinds of centers of excellence, the right kind of, we would say lift and adapt formulas, solutions, et cetera. Because in many cases, problems that have been solved in one place of the world are adaptable to other parts. So having an infrastructure and network, again, I'll go back to digital, I'll go back to great people, I'll go back to an environment that is innovative and open, but demands results and ensures that we move with the right level of speed. That construct ensures that that customer obsession, that innovation stays at the heart of this organization. Difficult as you scale, more difficult, but certainly something that we'll continue to manage as we look out into the future.
We certainly aspire to pace with China and the US. Let's talk, you referenced communication a little bit earlier in our conversation. Let's discuss communication during times of crisis. How does communicating vision and values during uncertain times ensure clarity and conviction?
I can't overestimate the importance of a consistent, ongoing, authentic set of communication, and doing that like this, face to face. People don't like to read much anymore, so it's less and less that you're posting things on different sites, and it's absolutely critical. So we have a very, very comprehensive, multifaceted communication set of tools and vehicles that deal with our own internal folks. It deals with the trade in the industry and consumers and customers that we have, everything from social media listening posts to sort of traditional marketing vehicles that we use. We have a number of things that I will talk to on a pretty consistent basis. You have to repeat and repeat and repeat, keep the messages concise and to the point, really think about what and why. And the communication, one of the beauties of this is it's much easier to have a much, much more, I would say, circular, integrated, both listening and talking. So it's as much about listening to what the organization is concerned about or has questions on or wants further clarity about or maybe excited about. And so we're really focused on as much the communicating out as the listening in, and doing so in a manner that's pretty disciplined. We experiment with different tools and different ways that folks can communicate because, again, people are dynamic. You have lots of different demographics in the organization, from folks just finishing up school or 21, 22, 23, vastly different cultures around the globe, to folks who've been around the organization for a long, long time. And you need to meet people where they are in a way that resonates with what works for them, because ultimately, if you want them to be successful, they need to understand what you're trying to accomplish, why that's important, how they can contribute, and communicating in a disciplined way is just really key.
Absolutely. Now for our last question, let's look ahead and let's talk about the future for Riches. We've talked a lot about volatility, current market conditions, and yet Riches has ambitious plans to double the business by 2030. I know my team thinks about nothing else other than our bridge to that 2030 vision. So how is Rich Products positioning itself for long-term growth?
So I think it's important for an organization to have a North Star that's aspirational, that the folks in the company can sort of get a sense of, where are we trying to head? So for us, that vision is, hey, $10 billion by 2030, and there's a statement, and there's a whole bunch of different facets of what it's all about. But in essence, it's a growth story. It's about the possibility to grow to that size and scale by a specific time through a combination of innovation, a combination of redefining our portfolio. You have to be thinking about products, customers, the countries you're going to do business in, and what are they going to want? What are their needs going to be? What are the circumstances from a competitive perspective in the marketplace in totality going to look like in 2030? And how are you shaping that portfolio? You have to make sure that you're talking about the values of the organization, and culture sits on top of values and needs to evolve as you're building that kind of a growth scale. M&A is part of it, as innovation is part of it, the core growth is. And so, painting a picture, helping people understand what and why, talking about what the components are, connecting that to folks at wherever they may sit, evolving and listening and learning to that, having some flexibility and adaptability of how you may get there, but not doing so in a manner where people feel like you're shifting gears all the time, because that'll confuse them. But it's a great way to sort of, let's say, both unleash the entrepreneurial spirit that all of us have in us, and at the same time provide something that's growth oriented and aspirational and gets people excited because they think about how they can contribute.
Absolutely. And it's come to life, certainly through the communication. I think everybody is excited and charged. It's electric. Thank you, Richard. Celine, over to you.
Thank you, Carolyn. So Richard, we have a question from a student. So Emily asks, as a student preparing to enter the workforce during unpredictable times, What are skills or mindsets that you think are critical for young professionals to develop in order to thrive in this volatile, changing business environment?
I think they need, great question. I get asked it all the time. I think that they need to be, have the capability to think critically. I think they need to be able to communicate clearly, concisely. They have to look at the data, look at the material, develop a hypothesis, have a point of view, back it up with data or perspectives or whatever, and then succinctly be able to communicate that. I think they should look for either organizations or if they want to go to work for themselves. And I think early on, especially, you want to think about learning and growing. It's kind of less about title per se. It's like go someplace where you think you can learn something. Go to a place where you feel good, where you feel valued, that's consistent with the values and the culture and what you're all about. And you shouldn't compromise and you shouldn't let people tell you you can't, or I wouldn't do any of that. I think, those are some of the keys. And I would say grab a hold of your career, grab a hold of what you need to do and what you want, and ask, ask questions. Don't, you should work for organizations that want questions, that want engagement, that want to listen to what you have to say. If you're in a place that doesn't do any of those things, you may want to rethink some of that, but take advantage. Companies like, we want young, bright people with different points of view and different perspectives and sort of challenge us and shape us. And we want to help them grow and develop because you want to remain committed to helping people have a long, successful career, not hang around for 3 years and go someplace else.
Thank you, Richard. And one more question from Arlene. She asked, can you share your perspective on the vitality and future opportunities for Western New York as a region and how you as a company are staying committed to Western New York?
So again, terrific question. Western New York does have some unique geographic advantages, proximity to Canada. We got some issues that we're working our way through now, which, hopefully will take care of themselves over the course of the next 24, 36 months. But that access to that market is a big, big advantage. You have a community that genuinely cares. It's a pretty close-knit community. There's a lot of different organizations from a charitable perspective we care about related to giving back to the community on the West Side here, as an example. We're involved with a lot of different groups, helping folks who've just come in to this country or folks who may need, a little bit of help and so on. We're very engaged in the culinary side and some of the educational things that we can do to help people learn related to, pastry chef, bakery chef, so people can start to get work. And we do that around the globe. It's a Western New York question, but around the globe, we have these programs. I don't care if you're in Thailand or in Mexico or in, Los Angeles, we have these kinds of programs. And I would say that, Western New York is a good, solid future. You live in a state that has certain constraints. It kind of is what it is. We are committed, Rich Products Corporation, the family, to Western New York. It's our home. It's been our home for 80 years. It'll be our home for another 80 years because, in this day and age, you can get the talent that you need to grow and thrive here. So we're bullish.
Thank you, Richard. And thank you, Carolyn, for taking your time today and sharing your incredible expertise. We're so grateful to have you as partners and as incredible UB alumni.
Thanks,
Ian. And thank you so much for everyone, all of our attendees. But it's not over. Come join us next month. We're going to be having incredible leaders talking about leading with a collaborative mindset. That will be September 8th at 12 p.m. Scan our QR code, register now. And don't forget, you can always get involved with our center and with the University at Buffalo. We're here to help you level up your leadership skills, anywhere from our leadership coaching certification to our leadership accelerator program, which is a 6-session professional development program. We're here to help you. So thank you for spending your summer time with us. We will see you back in September and see you soon. Go Bills.